Donald Trump just got some brutal election news out of Texas and Florida. Yes, Texas and Florida. These two states have recently been Republican strongholds that Democrats could only dream of winning. But now, new data is coming out that shows these two states' races are much closer than people anticipated. Something big is happening in Florida and Texas, and it could be the sign of a major upset about to go down. Wait until you hear all the details. Kamala Harris's campaign has been an absolute monster ever since she kicked it off. And one example of that is the fundraising numbers that have come in. Kamala Harris's campaign is now reporting that they raised $361 million in August, nearly 3 times Trump's haul. That is an incredible amount of money that Kamala Harris can use not only to put ads on air in battleground states, but also to have boots on the ground, knocking doors, organizing, field offices. This is gigantic. And there are some interesting details about this financial windfall. Kamala Harris has raised more than $615 million for her campaign and associated Democratic committees since she took over the campaign from President Joe Biden on July 21st. The August donations came from nearly 3 million donors, including 1.3 million donors who gave for the first time this cycle. And among those new donors, 3 in 4 had not given to Biden's campaign during the 2020 presidential race. And going further, the campaign said more than 60% of August donors were women, and almost 1/5 of donors were registered Republicans or independents. Now, having this type of money can allow you to invest in places that you may not have thought you could win in the past, and that includes states like Florida and Texas. And just last month, a poll came out that sent off alarm bells within the Republican Party. And the chairman of the Republican Party in Florida sent out an email that showed just how alarmed the party was. The email said, "Polling alert, fellow conservative, I have tough polling news to share with you. Donald Trump at risk of losing Florida, poll suggests." The headline is extremely alarming. Here are a few major points. The poll suggests that Republican support could be declining in Florida. Harris has gained 9.6 points, decreasing Trump's substantial lead in Florida. Keep in mind that Florida was a landslide for Republicans in the 2022 midterms. Ron DeSantis won re-election as governor by about 20 points. And there's more bad news for the Republican Party in the state of Florida. A new poll by Emerson College shows that the Senate race is much closer than Republicans would have hoped. Republican Rick Scott is running for re-election, and his Democratic challenger, former Congresswoman Debbie Mercer Powell, is within 1 point of him. And there are some striking details within the poll that tell us the story of why Democrats are surging in Florida. The first point in this article is huge. The GOP lean of the sample is 39% Republican and 32% Democrat. That means a lot more Republicans were answering this poll that ended up with the Democrat being within 1 point of the Republican. And this next point is huge. Florida independent votes break for Mercer Powell 47% to 34%. That's a 14% difference in favor of the Democrat with independents. And women voters break for Debbie Mercer Powell 48% to 42%. That is a difference of 6% in favor of the Democrat. If I'm Republican Rick Scott, I'm freaking out right now because this is looking like an epic disaster is about to come for the Republican Party. And that's not even the most shocking part of the poll. Emerson College also polled the state of Florida and Texas to see how Kamala Harris is doing against Donald Trump. And the results are sending shockwaves through the Republican Party and boosting the morale of Democrats nationwide. The poll revealed that the states of Texas and Florida are now within the margin of error in the Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump race. The survey from Emerson College Polling / The Hill showed Trump leading Harris in Florida by 5 points, 50% to 45%, and in Texas by 4 points, 50% to 46%. If Kamala Harris were to flip Texas or the state of Florida, then her path to victory becomes much easier. And in fact, we would know by election night if Kamala Harris had won, because the state of Florida, they count their votes very quickly and they tend to put out the results before midnight Eastern Standard Time. And the fact that Kamala Harris is this close to Donald Trump and she still has 60 days to go until the election has to be freaking out Donald Trump and the Republican Party as a whole. And this is a great sign for Democrats that we're doing the right thing. I believe Florida is in play because of abortion. I understand the Republicans did well in the midterms, but that was before the schism between Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump. That was before Ron DeSantis decided to run for president, and he was a hero within the party. And now there's a bit of a rift. I understand they've healed that since then, but it's not perfect. And I think there's a lot of discord within the Republican Party in Florida. And now that abortion is such a major issue, Florida has become ground zero because they're the largest state that is fighting over abortion right now. They have a constitutional amendment on the ballot that will enshrine a right to an abortion up until fetal viability, and that's around 24 weeks. Compare that to the 6-week rule that they have right now, and you can see that it's a slugfest in Florida, and all eyes are on that state to see what happens. A lot of people are starting to come out, and a lot of Republicans realizing, hey, my party's gone way too far, so time to vote for Democrats. Now, I'm not saying we're going to win Florida, but if polls and stats like this keep coming out, then things are looking more and more optimistic for the Democratic Party in the state of Florida and maybe even Texas.